Hard to believe, but we finally have made it here. NASCAR is back. It's starting this week at the Clash. And just like he's been the last couple of years, Brandon at BostonBoy83 on Twitter and Instagram is here to talk some NASCAR. How are you doing today, my man?
Doing good, man. It feels like the off season was short and we were just doing this a couple weeks ago for the championship.
Season has flown by and there's been a lot of moving parts. Some drivers have switched cars. We don't really know what's going on with Kurt Busch. There's been some rule changes. There's been some car changes. What has changed in the next gen car from this year as it composed to last year?
There's a lot more safety stuff with the rear end, different clips on it, because that's where they started to have all these problems of people backing it into the wall and then the injury. And we can touch on the Kurt Busch thing, but a guy that backed his car into the wall and to this day is still not cleared. It wasn't a drastic flip. It wasn't anything. It was just a hard hit. So I think they found a way to soften the blows, and they're still doing testing with different fans and stuff to cool the inside of the car, but they're struggling with that. The biggest thing is really some rule changes. Like the choose cone is not going to be at super speedway or at the dirt to where you can choose inside or outside. The restart zone was expanded by an additional 50%. You don't have to be in the top 20 in points or top 30 in points to be able to win a race and qualify for the playoff. It can be any driver, which gets real interesting with the Daytona 500. Yeah, so that's really it when it comes to major changes. Playoff format still the same way it's always been, and should be interesting. 1 full year under all these guys' belts with this new car.
Now, we really still don't know what's going on with Kurt Busch, do we?
No, it was weird. At the NASCAR Hall of Fame ceremony 2 Fridays ago that I was at, he was actually on stage, and the question that was given to him was, hey, the 23 team is issuing a third car that Travis Pastrana is going to try and qualify in for the Daytona 500. How does it feel to have a car open to you if you want to return? And his exact words are like, I'm so thankful that they're going to do that. But to this day, I am still not qualified. I'm still not cleared. So that's concerning to me that, again, just what we said a few minutes ago, you back a car into the wall, you don't finish the season. Here we are months after the season, and he's still saying he's not medically cleared.
Is this a concussion? Is this some sort of neck injury, back injury, or we just don't know?
I'm assuming it's got to be something with the brain, not necessarily, or his head in general.
So a concussion.
If it messed up his concussion, it has to be something to that extent for it to be this bad.
My boy, Uncle Kev, hanging it up. What are your thoughts on him hanging it up this year?
My first question, did you shed a tear at all?
I did. I was like, oh. I was like,
for those of you that are following this for a couple of years, this will be the last year that he can say old man when he makes his bet. So hats off to Kevin. He's not doing what Jimmy did and trying to bounce around to different sports and then come back. His son's getting older. He wants to see his son race. He's been doing a lot of go-kart racing. So I think unlike the Brady style where you just keep going and it starts interrupting family issues, that him getting out now, he hasn't been as successful. I could absolutely see him doing what he can like he did last year to win a race, get in the playoff, try and have a good farewell attempt at the championship. But never been a huge fan of the guy, but very proud of the way he's going out.
Now, you mentioned rule changes. Obviously, and I may say this wrong, the Hail Melon rule, that's in effect. Why don't you break that down to everybody?
Anybody that watched the end of last year, Ross Chastain basically slingshotted into a corner, didn't use a brake, rode the wall, and got into the playoffs or into the final championship round. That's a safety issue. So even though the car, it's funny, Trackhouse released about a week ago that 90% of the parts on that car were still reusable. So it kind of defeats NASCAR's rule of safety, but it truly is. You can't Hail Melon it into a wall at 100 miles an hour and not get injured. So no more Hail Melons. Guys in 20th with a lap to go, he is not going to qualify for it. But the fact that it went into the rule book as no Hail Melon, and it's the Melon Man, that's pretty cool to have your own rule.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, looking at the drivers for this year, is there a driver that you feel is poised to have a breakout type season?
Blaney. Blaney had such a successful season last year, but struggled trying to get the win, and it killed him for the playoffs. So I see him carrying the momentum of a consistent season into a victory or a couple this year and going deep into the playoffs. So if I had to just pick somebody right out the gate to win this year's championship, it's definitely Ryan Blaney at 10-1.
Okay. Now, is there a driver you think is going to take a step back, and if so, why?
Kyle Busch. He's getting to that age, kind of like Harvick, not the same age, but close, and just kind of been downhill recently. And now he's swapping teams, whole new facility, whole new crew, whole new sponsors. Like everything's so different. I think I wouldn't be surprised if you see him come out of the gate well. But if I had to fade somebody throughout the whole season, my fade would absolutely be Kyle Busch. It's hard to say that because you're talking about a man that's very successful on the track. But I feel like this is one of those last hurrahs that he's trying to do. And I don't think it's going to pan out like he expects it to.
Now, obviously, the Clash is this weekend. So we're going to have Clash, weekend off, then Daytona. We hit Logano last year to win the Clash, kicked off the new year great. You finished the season and one of the best NASCAR runs I've ever seen in my life, winning 4 of the last 5 races. Interesting one here because there's no real track that plays like this. It is a short track. And when we look at it last year, there's only 3 guys that led laps: Reddick, Logano, and I believe Busch. So, I mean, I have my strategy betting this, but you're the guy that is the professional iRacer. I'm just a smartass from Chicago that bets. So I'm interested to see where you're going here.
I don't want to. I'll say some names that I like, but I'm not going to make my bets until after qualifying because this track, to your point, people want to compare it to Martinsville. It's not. It's a bull ring and it's bumper cars. So if you qualify bad and you're starting in 20th, it's impossible to make your way to the front. You'd have to wreck 19 cars in front of you to even get there. So my strategy is going to be wait till qualifying, I think tomorrow, and grab anybody that's within the top 10. And even 10, I feel like I'm pushing it. So your top 5 is going to be, because how do you pass? You don't pass the track unless you put a bumper to them. And if you're starting way out back, unless something drastic happens, like there's no pit strategy here. There's no take 2 tires, not 4. They run 75 laps. They call a timeout, do a concert, then do another 75 laps. So I think whoever's starting towards the front is who you're going to want to lean on. I think my point with Blaney, though, I could see this being a Blaney race and watching the same kind of story of last season pan out to where the winner of the Clash absolutely makes it all the way to the championship Final 4 because you're just going to carry that momentum in the new car, clean suit, like look good, feel good, play good. Like you're going to carry that momentum right into the season, no matter what happens at Daytona.
So I have 3 bets for this, and this is how I'm doing it. I have 3 bets. Bet number 1, I'm going with Logano. Won there last year. I know he's a favorite, plus 750. Based on his short track history and what he's done last year at this track and last year winning the title, I feel 750 is good odds. I'm going to throw 1 unit on Logano plus 750.
All right. What's your next one?
Bet number 2, I'm going with Reddick, 14-1. I feel he's getting an upgrade in cars, led the most amount of laps last year, has a good history on the short track. I'm throwing half a unit on Reddick, 14-1.
I'm going to back you with that. I like that. I didn't realize his odds were at that point. I told you I don't have the odds on my computer right now. What do you have AJ Allmendinger at?
Mr. Allmendinger. I'm pulling that up right now. He is currently 75-1.
I like that. If he qualifies towards the front in the top 10, I would grab AJ. Again, Cup Series, full-time, college racing. Like they're going to be looking to make a statement like Trackhouse did last year. So there's a team that you need to watch out for. I like them. And as bad as the cars have been through Petty or GMS, now that Jimmy Johnson is heading that and the name's changed to Legacy Motor Group or Motor Club, I know I'm kind of spinning off the topic here, but Noah Gragson is a guy I'd watch out for this year as well, solely because the guy that he reports to is Jimmy Johnson, 7-time champion. Like,
Jimmy's not going to take any of his shit.
No, he's not going to take it. He's going to put him in his place. He's going to make the kid mature way more than he was last year. He ran Xfinity year after year, very successful. I absolutely see Noah being an impact for Rookie of the Year over Ty Gibbs, which let that shock everybody, because everybody going into this is going to say, Joe Gibbs' grandson, best equipment. Mark my word, he's going to run into a couple of these veterans and put a bad taste in their mouth where they're not going to take it from this punk kid that's been spoon-fed his entire life and make it a living nightmare for him to win races.
Yeah.
So if I pick a Rookie of the Year out of those two, I'm jumping on Noah all day because Gibbs is going to have a foot up his ass within a couple weeks of the season starting.
I like that. I like that a lot. My last one, I accidentally gave it out when I was talking. I'm throwing a little on Justin Haley. Quarter unit on Justin Haley, 40-1. He was right up toward the front last year. Of course, Kyle Larson took him out. He was in a good position. I think he's going to be in line to qualify well. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a unit on Logano plus 750, half a unit on Reddick, 14-1, and a quarter unit on Haley, 40-1. That's what I'm risking going into this bad boy. And I like the dinger. I'll throw a quarter unit on the dinger too.
Yeah, because I think the dinger, especially for the championship guys out there looking for championship bets early, Dinger's going to win a road course race and put himself into the playoff pretty early. So I would grab Dinger right now, I believe 100-1.
100-1, correct.
100-1. I would grab Dinger for your high long shot odd to win the championship, because if he gets in, I don't know what it is about my feeling going into this year, but watching all the drama and the fighting and the intentional wrecks between Bubba and Larson and Chastain and Hamlin, Chastain and Chase and Harvick, I think you're going to see tempers flaring right out the gate, including as early as this Sunday. I think you're going to have a lot of guys going into this season saying, I'm not taking it from anybody. I'm done pushed around. So be ready for, if there's a bet once a week on will there be a fight, drop a bet on that every single week. And
every single week.
So,
well, I'm really looking forward to this NASCAR season, talking it with you. Brandon, make sure you guys give Brandon a follow at It's Boston Boy 83. We're going to be taking next week off, but he'll be back here the following week in 2 weeks to break down the Daytona 500. Make sure to give him a follow. We'll talk in 2 weeks, my friend.